Hello everyone out there, this is Karamo again, and this short video I would like to share with you all some real life scenarios that we're going to use to answer questions using Gapminder dataset. And the first question we're going to answer is, what is the average life expectancy for Gambia, Senegal and Liberia? And we will also go further to explore the GDP per capita for each of these selected countries. And we will monitor the trend of the average population growth for Africa and also to explore the GDP per capita for each continent in 2007. And then also check for the life expectancy trend for China from 1952 to 2007. And finally, the mean population of each of the continent in 2007. So let's get started. In these demonstrations, I'm going to make it very short and precise and to the point. So we're going to use the Gapminder dataset. So let's first load the data. Gapminder dataset, and the dataset is loaded in our global environment. Let's see how many rows and columns we have in our data. So we say dime data. So the dataset have 1,704 observations of 4 rows and 6 columns, 6 variables, and these are the columns we have: the country, continent, year, life expectancy, population, and GDP per capita. Now, it's also worth knowing that we can see that a specific country is repeated multiple times. This is because we have different years to monitor the indicators of that country. Now, for Afghanistan in 1952, the life expectancy is 28, and the population is this, and GDP per capita is this. But then we have Afghanistan again. This is because this is 1952, and in 1957, these indicators differs. In 1962, 67, 72, and so on. And this is also like other countries too, like Albania, Algeria also have the same thing, and we have Angola, Argentina, and so on. Now let's go further to answer questions that we have in this video. The first one is, what is the average life expectancy for Gambia, Senegal, and also for Liberia? So to answer this question, we're going to use a package called the Tidyverse. If you don't have it installed, you have to install this package first, because we're going to use the function from this package to answer questions in this video. So Tidyverse. If you don't have it loaded, you have to install it first and then load it. So we have our data, that is the Gapminder data, and what we're going to do, we have bring the pipe operator again. In my previous video, I explained to you what is this pipe operator and what does it do. So if you have not know about how this works, please check my previous video about how do we rename variables in our programming. So we have data percentage. This is the pipe operator. It also translates as, and then, like we have our data, and then what do we want to do? We want to find the average life expectancy for these 3 countries. So data, and then we want to filter. What do we want to filter? Country. And then we have percentage in percentage. Now the selected countries of our interest is Gambia and Senegal and Liberia. So these are the selected countries of our interest. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to group by. Okay, so we're going to group by. We're going to group by countries because we are looking at 3 specific countries of our interest. So we're going to group by countries, and then we summarize life expectancy. I'm going to use live exp, and then this is going to be equals to mean life expectancy. So this is all we have to do to generate the answer for the question 1. Now when we run this line of code, we have the output here. So the life expectancy for Gambia is 44, Liberia is 42, and Senegal is 50. So this is the first question that it's asking us to do. Now the second question is, what is the GDP per capita for selected African countries in 2007? So the selected African countries is the countries that we have here. So what we're going to do is we bring in our data again, and we bring in the pipe operator. This is percentage greater than percentage is given us, and then what next do we have to do after we bring in our data? So what we're going to do in the second part of the second question is that we're going to filter, because we are looking at countries of our interest. That's Gambia, Senegal, and Liberia. So we're gonna filter, and we're gonna filter what? Percentage in percentage, the countries of our interest. So let's copy this and paste these 3 countries because these are of interest that we're focused on right now. So we paste these countries here. And the next thing is that we also, because we are looking at 2007, so we have to filter year 2007. So one thing I want you to understand is that here we have double equal signs. Double equal sign means we're going to filter 2007 from this variable. If we only bring one equal sign, it means the year is equal to 2007. But we are trying to filter 2007 from the year because the year have different years: 1952, 1961, 2001, and 2007. So it has different years inside. So we want to specifically select 2007 and see the GDP per capita for these selected African countries. So that's why we bring in 2 equal signs instead of 1. And then we have group by country and year, and then summarize. We're going to summarize average. What the question says, average GDP. So this is going to be mean GDP per capita. So this is all we have to do to see our answer. There's an error in our code, percentage greater than percentage, and it says filter our country, and that's to do the deal. So the Gambia in 2007, the GDP per capita was 753, Liberia in 2007 is 415, and Senegal in 2007 is 1712. So we go to the third question, what is the trend for average population growth for Africa? So the trend here, we're looking at 1957. Let's go to data, and we go to the year. So the minimum is 1952, and the maximum is 2007. So we're going to monitor the trend of the population growth in Africa from 1952 to 2007. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to bring in our data again. Percentage greater than percentage, and we're going to filter. What are we going to filter? Continent. So again, we have double equal signs because in continent variable, like here, we go to our data. In continent, we have different continent. So we want to specifically filter Africa. So that's why we have to use double equal sign. But if we want to set continent is equal to Africa, then we're going to use single equal sign. So that's the difference. So continent we're going to filter Africa from the continent, and then we're going to group by year, and then we're going to summarize the average population growth. The population growth is mean and population. So when we run this code, now we're going to see the trend. Now in 1952, the population growth of Africa is 4,570,010. But when we go to 2007, it's almost 17 million. So there is a high difference in population growth. But then this data was long time, because if you compare the current Africa, the population growth for Africa is really way more than this one. This data was long time, in 1952 to 2007. Okay, so let's go to the next question. That is what is the average GDP per capita for each continent in 2007? Each continent, we have different continents, so we're going to see in 2007 what is the GDP per capita for each of these continents. So again, we bring in our data, and then we're going to filter, and this time we're going to filter what? The year in 2007. So year is 2007. And then we bring in the percentage greater than percentage, which sounds as, and then we're going to group by, this time continent, because we're looking at each continent in 2007. So in 2007, we filtered this from this year and group by continent. And then what we're going to do is summarize average GDP. Let's make it capitalized, GDP. And then this is going to be mean mean GDP per capita. Now in Africa, the average GDP per capita in 2007 is 3,089. The America is 11,000, and Asia 12,473, Europe, and also we have the Oceania. So the question 5 is asking us, what is the life expectancy trend for China from 1952 to 2007? Now we're going to observe the trend of the population growth, so the life expectancy growth in China from 1952 to 2007, and we will drastically see how the growth changes within these years. So again, we bring in our data, and we bring in the pipe operator, and then we're going to filter, and we're going to filter from country. We're going to filter China. And then what we're going to do now is group by. We're going to group by year because we're going to filter from 1952 to 2007. So we're going to group by year. And then we're going to summarize the average life EXP expectancy for China. So mean life EXP. Okay, mean life EXP for China. So we have our data, and then we have the pipe operator. So the pipe operator here means we have our data, and what we want to do is that, and then we want to filter the country China. We want to filter China from the country, because when you go to the data set, we have the country, we have different countries, but we want to specifically filter China from this list of countries. And we want to observe from the year trend of the life expectancy for China. That's from 1952 to 2007. Now we summarize our results for finding the average life expectancy for China. Now in 1952 was 44, and in 2007 is 73. So we can see that there is drastically increase of quality of life in China, that in 1952 was really low, and compared to 2007, which is 73. And in 2024, probably it could be more than 73. So this is all I want to share with you. And we go to the final question, which is the average population for each continent in 2007. That's a bit easy one. So in this question, what we're going to do is that we're going to observe, we're going to calculate the mean population for each continent in 2007. So again, we bring in our data, pipe operator, and then we want to filter, because we're looking at 2007. So we filter, the year is 2007, and then we're gonna group by continent, because we're looking at each continent. So group by continent, and then what do we want to do? We want to summarize the average population, and that's going to be mean population. So that's all we're gonna do, and voila, we're done. So let's go take this up a little bit and see our output. So number 6 says, what is the average population for each continent in 2007? So we have our data, filter the year in 2007, and we group by continent, because we're looking at each of the continents in which year in 2007. And now we want to summarize the average populations. Now this is Africa, this is America, Asia, Europe, and Oceania. So this is the last questions that we use a real life scenarios to answer questions from the Gapminder data. So this is all I want to share with you in this video, and thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something from this video.